but he's got a, this is pre-COVID stuff, but he's got a routine where he talks about, or he shows like greeters at church with the hand sanitizers when people come in. Have y'all ever seen this? Y'all need to look it up on YouTube, because like depending on, he'll ask my hand sanitizers. Oh, welcome to church. Oh, you got kids. Well, we're so glad to have kids. And like every single thing that he says, he just adds more this imaginary. And he's like, oh, y'all are from the South. Oh, well. And he starts dumping.
There were 5 of us gals together. No, there were 6 of us together. And I bet that lady thought, those women.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you get a chance, look that up on YouTube. So,
in December of 19, so like kind of like right before.
Right.
And we were making fun of, because there was this, you go into the dining hall, and they had, employees that were there with the hand sanitizer, making everyone sanitize. And this one guy who's there every night, he's like, washy, so you don't get sticky. I mean, he would come at you, making sure he's like spraying the sanitizer in your hands. But when we get back, we're like, and then COVID hit. I'm like, I bet you there was COVID. Like,
on the cruise? I guarantee you. Yeah, that's right. We didn't get it.
We're sitting there like, who's laughing? Before they even talked about it, and I was in the grocery store, like in February or right before it ever came out. And this young kid, he was checking me out, and he's coughing and hacking and carrying on. And then I was sick for about 2 weeks, but I didn't know, about it. So I think I had it. But then right after that, they came out with it. So I naturally went and got shots.
Yeah. Christy had a coworker at the school that she was at right before COVID that went on a week-long vacation in Disney World, came back sick. Then Christy got sick and went to the doctor, and at the time they tested for flu, and she tested negative for flu and strep, but they gave her some Tamiflu anyway, and she's like, well, this will knock whatever it is, this will knock it out. And then like a month later, everything started shutting down. I was like, oh, you know what that might have been? So. Yeah. So, okay, let's get started this morning. Thank you for coming into class. Thank you for those of you joining us online. Thank you for being here this morning. Got a few more folks coming in today. Glad to have you. Thanks for coming. We're going to be in Ephesians chapter 4. Some of you who maybe haven't been with us the last couple of weeks will be amazed that it only took me 2 Tuesdays to get through an entire chapter of Ephesians. So I'm pretty proud of myself. I'm bragging on myself a little bit there. Yeah, no. I appreciate you thinking that we might be through by now, but no. We're nowhere near. Matter of fact, I'm looking at my notes today and going, we're not going to get very far through chapter 4 this morning. So that's right. We got stuff. Well, so that's true. Not quite as many questions and stuff, maybe. But what I want to do this morning, kind of get the ball rolling and get your minds thinking a little bit. We hadn't done this in a while, so I want to offer to you guys and also offer to folks online, to make comments and stuff with your answers. We need to do some would you rather questions. Okay, we haven't done this in a little bit, so we're going to start off this morning, and I'll get answers from you guys here in the room, but then. Brandon is manning the computer today, so anybody that's online want to say hi to Brandon. He's actually here this morning. That sounded really condescending. We're glad to have Brandon with us this morning. We're going to start in verse 1. We haven't, but before we get into the text, would you rather? We'll start out with an easy one. I think an easy one. Would you rather have 7 fingers on each hand or 7 toes on each foot? Would you rather? You say toes? Because why?
I just feel like it'd be in my way with my hands, but like with my toes, I just have better balance.
Okay, better balance. I hadn't even thought about that. Better balance with the 7 toes. All right. Anybody else? Same reasoning? Okay. Anybody else? I would think I would want the 7 toes just because I could hide them. The 7 fingers, yeah. Unless you're walking around in flip-flops and people are like, your toes are hanging off your flip-flops. That would be my reasoning. Like, but you could get shoes to fit. I mean, yeah, you might have to order them. Huh? It's just you. Would you rather have 7 fingers or 7 toes on each hand and foot? So most people in here said toes. All right. Nobody wants that extra digit. Nobody wants that extra finger. So Yeah, we might have to squeeze in a little bit. We got some more chairs if y'all want to set up some chairs. Okay. Second question. Would you rather, hey Paulette, would you rather lose the ability to read or lose the ability to speak? Would you rather lose the ability to read or lose the ability to speak? How many? Okay. How many of y'all, just show of hands here. I don't know what's happening online, but how many of y'all say read? Lose the ability to read. Okay. You can't lose the ability to speak, is what you're saying. You got to be able to talk. All right. That's what I'm saying. So how many of y'all would want to lose the ability to read? Oh, now we got a couple more hands. Okay. Okay. How many of y'all would be okay? I mean, would you rather? Nobody would rather. But of the two, would you rather lose the ability to speak? Really? So the speak, you learn sign language and stuff, so you can still communicate? Is that the thinking? Yeah? I don't know. I can't decide about the reading thing. Yeah. Yeah. What if you lost both? I don't know. I'm not a fan of reading in the first place. So there's part of me that was like, yeah. I know. I heard the judgment in your voice. I heard you. I know. That's all right. Right. But yeah, I'm not a I read if I have to. Yeah. Yeah. I listen to the audio versions of everything on yeah. No, I was telling somebody on Sunday about my freshman year of college and had to take I don't know, English Lit. I think the official title was Literature of the Western World. And they gave us a book that's like this thick. That was all that we were going to read for that whole semester. And the teacher was, I mean, it's great. She gave us a syllabus. Here's the schedule. Like, you didn't have to read through the whole thing all at once, you know? Like, here's how much you read on this day and then this day. And she'd give quizzes over the reading and stuff. But I figured out early on, it was true-false quizzes that she would just stand at the front of the room and ask true-false questions. Well, I can play the percentages on that. And then I figured out that all of her tests came from her lectures and not from the actual, like, she would discuss whatever it was that we were supposed to read. Well, I'm a great note taker. I can listen and take notes and stuff. So forget reading. I did so little reading in a class that was supposed to be all about reading because I could figure out, like, I even figured out, like, you know, kind of her facial expressions and the way she kind of looked around the room when she's, you know, that I think that's true. You know, I got a pretty good percentage. I mean, it wasn't 100%, but I did all right because I just didn't like reading. So, okay. Would you rather, by the way, has anybody answered any of these questions online yet, Brandon? Okay, that's all right. Would you rather, this will be a little telling. Would you rather have all of your messages and photos leak publicly or never use a cell phone ever again? Brandon says you'll let people see your pictures and yeah. How far back in the pics and messages are we going? Yeah. Never use a cell phone again or have all your photos and messages. You're all right with that? Gee, I don't know, man. I'm saying there might be some things that I'm like, oh, I don't necessarily want people to see that. So,
Well, that's the thing that you usually have one friend that you can share things with that you don't want to put on Facebook.
Right.
Think they're funny.
Right. I mean, no, I don't have anything like that, Lou. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I do have a sense of trust me. Those are just the ones I have.
Okay, then we're a little bit worried about what you're not putting online. If we see,
Sherry, apparently.
Sherry knows. No, but I'm thinking, like, what if I even texted people that I would not want other people to hear? Yeah. Yeah. So be careful what you share with her is what you're saying. Okay. But so would anybody pick never being able to use your cell phone again? Really? You would do that? Because it's not working anyway?
I'll go back to the
Yeah.
Like,
And you can apologize for it, or yeah,
I said that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
heard that.
yeah,
And then you can move on. But never using a cell phone again. That's
Yeah.
a lifelong.
Think about that though. Like, how many? I mean, a couple decades ago, somebody said you never use a cell phone again. You'd be like, all right, But man, yeah. But these are like valuable appendages now, right? Yeah. It is an appendage. It is. Yeah. Yeah. A landline, Brandon. What a landline is you plug a physical line into the wall. Yes. And there's yeah. How many of y'all had the giant long phone cords that stretched halfway across the house? Yeah. I remember the first time my family got a cordless phone at our house with a big antenna that was still somewhat staticky depending on where you were standing in the house, man. That was a big deal. Okay. Oh man, that's way before me. I know what you're talking about. I know what that is, a party line, but yeah. The bag phones? Yeah, my dad had one. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
$80 a month to get 10 minutes of talk time.
I didn't know as a teenager. My dad had one in his vehicle, and I was driving his because I didn't have my own car in high school, and I was driving his around one night, and I was taking that phone. I was just calling different friends just because it's so cool. It was so cool to be calling my friends on this phone, Which, do you know what a bag phone is, Brandon? Do you know what a bag phone is? Okay, they've seen it in movies, but like it still had the cord, it had a cord attached to it, but yeah. So anyway, I'm talking. Anyway, he got a really big bill, and he was like, "How did this happen?" I'm like, "That's the craziest thing, Dad. I would call and fight that. I don't know where those charges came from."
Our kids were little. The teenager that would come babysit was like when texting first started, and you could pay per text.
Oh yeah.
And she was texting her friends. They got like 4,000 texts, and their bill was like 800.
Yeah.
$300
Yeah.
and $400 bills because of my daughter.
Yeah. Do you remember when? Yeah. Yeah, I know. Do you remember when texting when you had to hit the numbers over and over to get the letters? So yeah.
Can you text her in class with that?
Because even even teaching during Bible classes, teaching teenagers, and I could see them like looking at me, and I could see this whole thing happening down here. So I knew it was happening in the schools. Like kids could just yeah.
Granny, what kind of phone is that?
Yeah.
And I said, well, you turn that, well, how do you know the number?
Oh, the rotary phone? Yeah. Yeah.
And so then, he said, well, then what do you do? And I said, well, how do you know the numbers? I said, you have them in your head or on a piece of paper. Oh, well, he said, I know my granny's number. Can I call her? And so I took him 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
To get it in. And then she answered, he said, Granny, you ain't gonna believe this.
Yeah. I've seen a video of people putting a rotary phone in front of some teenagers and be like, and they're trying to figure out how to they're pushing putting their fingers in the holes pushing the buttons or whatever. Anyway. Yeah. And yeah, and you have the thing right here and yeah. Yeah. There's a few in some of the bigger cities and stuff, but not. Yeah. Yeah. So they don't even know the fun of how many people can you pile into a phone booth. They don't even know how fun that is. The claustrophobia and all that. Okay. Would you rather hear a comforting lie or an uncomfortable truth? How many of y'all say you want the truth even if it's uncomfortable? How many of y'all would rather be lied to because it just feels better? Yeah, I'm like, I don't know that it's automatic that I would want the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes I might want the lie. It may depend on what the lie is about too. He'll be fine. Look, leaves the room, doesn't hear my voice anymore, and everything's a lot better.
She's laughing. She's laughing.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's hilarious. I know. We had a couple at our house a couple weeks ago during our young adults connection group, and they had she maybe about that age, but she thought everything that I was saying was hilarious. And we were in First Corinthians. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but anything I was talking about, she just like laughed and just thought that was hysterical. So.
You're talking about like sexual sin.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I was. That's right. That's right. So I was talking about eating food sacrificed to idols and sexual sin and all that kind of stuff. She's like, just laughing. It's the funniest thing. Okay, so let's not necessarily would you rather, but this is you have to pick. You have to choose one of the two. We'll take votes. We'll see. By the way, has anybody online commented on what they would rather? That's okay. So, Coke or Pepsi? How many of y'all say Coke? Let's take votes. How many of y'all say Coke? How many of y'all say Pepsi? This is your choices, Coke or Pepsi. Linda's our only Pepsi drinker? Okay. I mean, I'll drink it, I know, but okay. It's got, do y'all remember how big a deal that was? Again, Daisy and Brandon won't remember this. The Pepsi challenge? Yeah, do y'all remember how big a deal it was, whether you wanted Coke or Pepsi? And I didn't understand why people preferred Pepsi, because it was always, it was always Coke. I know, Linda's offended now. Could you be friends? Could you be friends with somebody? I mean, there's a lot of people in here. Huh? I don't drink coffee either. Yeah. Okay. We're back to being friends again then, because, okay. Okay. Beach or mountains? Okay, let's go beach first. About half. Mountains? Okay. So, why, for the beach people, why the beach? Because it's hot and you like things, okay. Warm. Anything else? Yeah? Yeah? Besides taking the selfies of your toes in the sand and posting those on social media and stuff, right? Those of y'all say mountains. Why mountains? Because they're cool, not hot. I'm not sweating to death, all right?
Every beach looks the same.
I think the views are pretty. I think you're right. I go to the beach and I'm like, it's pretty, but
It's the same beach.
you see the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The mountains.
But I could say the same thing. Mountains are mountains. There's some mountains. There's some other mountains. All right. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. But if you had your choice, was it somebody, hey, you got to pick beach or mountains, you take the beach. Yeah. Yeah. Kill and skin and all those kinds of things. Yeah. Yeah. There's fish in the beach, or not in the beach, but in the water. Yeah. You seen Castaway? Have you not seen Castaway? 4 years, man. Okay, here's the biggie. Here's the biggie. Pretend if this is not true for you, even if you don't necessarily like hot dogs, if you're gonna eat a hot dog, ketchup or mustard on the hot dog? How many of y'all say ketchup? No. You gotta pick. You got a few ketchups. Okay, mustard. A whole lot more mustard. All right. So why the ketchup?
Oh, I used to put ketchup on everything when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
I put it on my corn. I put it on everything.
You put it on corn?
Yes, I did.
Oh man, that sounded really judgmental the way I asked that. You put it on corn? What kind of freak puts it on corn? Mustard, man. But you're from Chicago. They put mustard on hot dogs in Chicago. Oh my goodness. Seriously. See, but the ketchup to me, like, it soaks into the bun more and gives it more like a soggy kind of taste. I mean, I like ketchup, trust me. I eat ketchup on a lot of stuff. But hot dog, I guess.
I do
Yeah?
like mustard, just not on
Right.
I want relish too. And onion.
Now we're getting too far.
Those weren't the choices.
Yeah, that's right.
Are you
That's right.
mustard or ketchup?
I'm totally mustard. No, my kids, all three of my boys, I think, like ketchup on a hot dog. I'm like, just disappointed. Yeah, I like that tanginess along with a hot dog.
When we had hot dogs, it was mustard. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't really,
I might be the same way. Huh?
Yeah, I want mustard on my corn dog.
That's the same thing. I mean, it's not. Trust me, I know there's a difference between corn dogs and hot dogs, but it's basically bread around a hot dog. I'm, I,
Imagine eating a corn dog with ketchup. I mean, I just gotta make mustard.
I don't understand why. That makes no sense to me. That makes no sense to me. But the corn dog, yeah, ketchup, no, yuck. Hot dog, oh, ketchup, definitely not. Like, I don't understand. Which one are you, Brandon?
Mustard for sure.
On both?
Yes.
Okay.
Ketchup is like the vanilla of like, put it on everything, but mustard is like the
Ah, yeah,
Gordon Ramsay.
yeah.
You know,
We have a former youth group kid whose name I won't mention, but his initials are Declan Buttrey, and he likes on chili dogs, just on chili dogs, likes Miracle Whip on chili dogs, not mayonnaise, specifically Miracle Whip on a chili dog. He keeps singing his praises. He's like, man, because he's been to my house and had chili and Frito pie and chili dog and stuff, and he's like, where's the Miracle Whip? I'm like, not anywhere here, like And he's like, he keeps telling me at some point when he comes to eat chili at my house, he's bringing a bottle of Miracle Whip with him so that I can find out for myself. I'm like, I don't do that either. I don't like sour cream though. So, yeah. Yeah. I'm like, I never intentionally put it on there. Now, if I eat at a restaurant and they've already slathered mayonnaise on it, I'll eat it. But otherwise, no. On a grilled cheese? Ugh. Whoa. Yeah, I'm sure you can. I bet I can. Okay. So the reason I was asking, especially those last three questions about, which one are you? Think about the things that we divide ourselves over. What kind of things do we and you can offer up some answers right now. What are some of the things that we will draw a line and say you're either this or this, and you're either on my side or you're against me. And I know, like Coke and Pepsi, we're like, all right, you're either Coke or you're Pepsi, all right. But politics, everybody's saying politics. So, do we make judgments on people based on what party they say they affiliate themselves with? You don't? Okay. Okay. But a lot of people do, don't they? You know?
How they approach the situation, though, because if they're like mean about it, then I start judging them. Like,
Yeah.
You're gonna change your mind probably in 2 weeks.
But do you assume something, or maybe not you, but do people sometimes already assume what kind of a person somebody is about the character and everything? I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. Do we do that? Yeah, based on the political party. Yeah. What were you going to say, Lori?
there's two things. I think with politics, but other things too, we've become such like extremes.
Mm-hmm.
Where I feel like if you say you're Republican, people automatically assume you're way conservative, and if you say you're Democrat, they assume
You're a flaming liberal.
Liberal.
Right.
I think the reality of this, most people are probably closer
To the middle?
to the middle.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't want to get too deep into political talk, but I think, but not just with politics,
Uh-huh.
with everything.
Uh-huh.
But we tend to view it as, oh, she's Republican, so she's way over
Yeah.
here, or she's
Yeah.
Democrat, so he's way over
We assume everybody is at the polar opposites.
Even the politicians, when they talk,
Mm-hmm.
they're talking about the far extremes to
Right.
rally everybody I think those numbers are a lot smaller than what's really truly in the middle. But
Right.
So our perception becomes this reality of the extremes rather
Mhm.
than the reality of what most people are probably
Yeah.
aware.
Yeah, for sure.
But I did read an interesting article. It's been probably a year or two ago that talked about like 50 years ago, if you said you were a hunter, people would assume, cool, you like to hunt. But now they'll assume you're Republican, you're Christian, you're, whatever else goes into this political.
Yeah, you've got your NRA membership, all that kind of stuff, just because you like to hunt.
Yes,
Yeah.
and you're pro-life, and you're all these things
Right.
align with.
Yeah, we'll attach other things that may not even be true because of this one character trait.
By just getting to know your neighbors, if you say one thing, they will assume all these other things about you, and it wasn't like that 50 years ago.
Yeah. Do we assume things? Let's even just. I mean, everybody, at least in this room, has lived, or most of you lived in Northwest Arkansas for a while. Do we assume things about people based on what town they live in, what town they're from? Paulette says, yeah. Yeah. Of course, you've lived here, yeah, all your life. So yeah, I mean, I've been here 20. Let's see, 20. I gotta do math. 20, coming up on 27 years in Northwest Arkansas. And if somebody tells me what city they're from, automatically I'm thinking, oh, they're this, they're that, they're redneck, they're bougie, they're, what I'll assume all sorts of things about them based on, and I can even do it about certain towns. I mean, I live in Rogers. Based on whatever neighborhood you live in, I'll assume things about you, I don't know where Briartown is. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Well, even when Cody and I moved here,
Yeah.
when people ask where we're moving, say Arkansas, we're like, we're moving to Arkansas.
Yeah.
But then they'll come and visit, and they're like, oh, I didn't expect it to be this.
Yeah.
Like, well, we're in like the bougie Arkansas, but.
Yeah. We are, for sure.
That's really funny because the first time my mom came to visit when we moved up here.
Yeah.
And picked her up at the airport, and we're driving. She goes, "Are we going to see hillbillies?" And I go, "No, Mom. Just like they don't see the Indians in North Dakota."
Yeah, that's right. That's right. There's more people that, yeah. But, well, I felt that way when I was at Harding because, Harding's over towards eastern Arkansas. And all the highways basically to get to Searcy, Arkansas, do not come through northwest Arkansas. You know what I'm saying? And I grew up in Fort Smith, which I thought was northwest Arkansas all growing up. And then apparently they changed it at some point to the River Valley. So whatever. Anyway, but, I knew my part of the state was beautiful. But everybody else coming in from either Memphis or Jonesboro or Harrison or, from the south, whatever direction they're coming from, Texarkana. I mean, there's great parts of, there's good things about other parts of the state as well, but it ain't Northwest Arkansas. You know what I'm saying? But people make judgments about you who are from, New Jersey or Minnesota or Colorado or whatever. Even coming from the west, you come on I-40. You don't come to Northwest Arkansas. And I was like, no, I'm from the big town of Fort Smith at the time. It might still be, but Fort Smith is the second biggest city in Arkansas at the time. And I was like, yeah, I come from the big city. And they're like, big city? This is Arkansas. How big? And I'm like, no, there's like 80,000 people that live there. I'm like, whatever.
For not being around here, you're not half bad.
Yeah. Oh man, boy, when I see the out-of-state plates, there's certain states I'm like, those people, and think about just how often we do that, how often we make judgments on people. And I mean, we could get into, we mentioned politics, we could talk about skin color, we could talk about gender. I mean, there's all sorts of judgments, age. I remember, this is a long time ago, I remember being asked to go over to the Bentonville church because the older folks at the church had gotten upset at the younger folks about, I don't know, a couple of different incidences, and they just thought young people nowadays are just awful. And so I knew that I was good friends with the deacon who was in charge of the elderly ministry at the time. He asked me to come over and talk to them about teenagers and kind of, the kind of life that teenagers are living right now, and just kind of the world they're living in, just so those folks could have a little bit more compassion, because they walked in the church building and saw those teenagers and just immediately started shaking their heads. We judge all the time, on things that either we really don't know the full story about, or got no business judging people about, and we're all guilty of it. And if you are like me, where you hear somebody say that and you're like, yeah, but I'm not. You probably are, if you really think about it. And not that you try to mistreat people, but there's things that you think about somebody based on a whole bunch of different criteria that we got no business making those kind of judgments about. And I say all that. I know we've taken a long time to get into it, but I want us to be thinking about that as we get into what Paul says here at the beginning of Ephesians chapter 4. So we're finally going to look at Ephesians chapter 4. It took us a while to get there. Now. No, we are not. Not at all. But I wanted to lay that groundwork because I wanted to remind you, or maybe let some of you know for the first time. I think this is, if you read different commentaries, if you read different ministers talk about what motivated Paul to write this letter and what all he was trying to address, you got a bunch of different opinions. But one of the things that you see throughout this letter, and we've already seen it, but I think Paul really starts to get to the core of it here in chapter 4, is about unity. You need to be unified. And he's laid a lot of groundwork in these first 3 chapters. He's talked about how we're all part of God's family now. Remember we talked about that in chapter 1. You had the Jews who had always been a part of God's family, and you got the Gentiles who are now a part of God's family. They got adopted in. And he said basically we're all adopted kids because it's Jesus' blood that has made us all children of God. And then in chapter 2, he talks about how we all have fallen short. We've all sinned. We were all dead in our sins and transgressions, right? And we talked about that. And what's the thing that saved us? Grace. It's grace that saves you. And he says that twice in chapter 2, trying to get the point across. Those of you Gentile Christians, it's awesome to be saved when you never had that opportunity. You never had the chance to be a part of God's family before. Those of you Jewish Christians, you can't do enough good to earn being in God's family. God loves you enough to make you part of his family. Okay, then we got into chapter 3, and this is where Paul, he's making a statement and he interrupts himself. Remember I was talking about that? And his whole point in the at least first half of chapter 3 was there's this mystery, this thing that people haven't been able to figure out, which is basically God loves all of mankind and wants all of mankind to be his children. And for centuries, people haven't been able to figure that out, but now they see it. They see it in Jesus. They see the unity that God wants us to have. And then as we ended up, last week at the end of chapter 4, Paul is so moved by what he's talking about. He's like, man, I want all of us. I am begging God, I'm praying that we can all figure out remember how long and high and wide and deep is the love of Christ? That's for all of us. And it's an all-encompassing love for all people. Now that he's gone through those 3 chapters, and again, Paul didn't sit there and write, okay, chapter 1, he's just writing a letter. But now that he said all those things, here in verse 1 of Ephesians 4, he says, as a prisoner for the Lord then, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Now, a couple things. One, in the NIV that I'm reading from, he uses the word then. I think if the ESV, the English Standard Version, uses the word therefore, or they translate it therefore. There's probably your 2 choices. I don't know if anybody has anything else, but it'd be then or therefore. Okay? And we've talked about this before, just the significance of that little word. If it's a therefore, or if it's a okay, then what's he what is Paul kind of getting at? Because of what I just got done saying, okay? So what I wanted to point out, first of all, just here in verse 1 of chapter 4, is this is not Paul just talking about, had you got done going on this tirade about love, or even the last couple of verses of Ephesians 3 where he says, that God is able to do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine. I think when he says therefore, I think he's talking about the entire 3 chapters to this point. Because of all the things I've been talking about, because of all the point that I've been trying to get across, that we are all in the same boat. We're all on the same page. We all are sinners and needed God to save us, and now we're all part of God's family. Because of all that, what? I urge you to what? Live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Okay, so what does that mean? What does it mean to live a worthy life? What do you think of when you see that? Okay, a life that God would be proud of. Good. Anybody else? You don't think that we can live a completely worthy life? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not sure that you're worthy. Okay?
By knowing that you're unworthy, you are. I think Paul actually, I don't know where it's at.
Yeah.
First Corinthians maybe, but he
Okay.
talks about by recognizing that you're imperfect, you were made perfect.
Yeah. So if I recognize how unworthy I am,
I think
that
that's living
allows me to be worthy. Anybody else? Mm-hmm. I think that I feel like a lot of us maybe struggle kind of with, like what Lou was saying, that we're worthy. Kind of, it bothers me a little bit because it carries with it the connotation you have to earn this. You have to somehow make yourself worthy of what has been done. I think I've told you guys this before. I love the movie Band of Brothers. Have y'all seen Band of Brothers? A lot of y'all have. Okay, it's okay if you haven't. I'm going to spoil the ending for you, in case you're ever going to watch it. Just know I'm spoiling it right now. But this soldier, this Private Ryan that they're going to find, they find him, and the guy that's in charge, this army captain, that's been trying to get Ryan saved and get him back home to his family. He ends up, getting shot, and he's about to die. And there's all these other guys that have died in this battle trying to protect Private Ryan so that he can get home. And one of the last scenes, in the movie is this captain's laying there and he's probably going to die. And he tells Private Ryan, he says, earn this. And he says, what? He leans in a little closer. He says, earn this. And, and then he dies, and then, eventually goes back to Private Ryan is now an old man, and he's standing at the cemetery, the memorial there in Normandy, and he's standing in front of the grave marker of this captain. And he's an old man now, and he says, I hope I've earned it. And he said, I've tried every day to earn what was done for me. And his wife comes walking up, and he's like, he's in tears, and he says, tell me that I've been a good man. Tell me that I've lived a good life. And it's a powerful scene. It's a powerful scene, but it bothers me because I feel like maybe in my own life, or I've witnessed other people to earn what's been done for them. And I've even heard people use that illustration that I just shared with you guys in sermons and in devotional talks. Like, hey, let's go earn what Christ has done for us. And I'm like, but you can't. I'm with you, Luke. You can't, and it's exhausting and frustrating and very guilt-inducing to try to, because you still fall short. And then you have your, like, in your own mind, am I worthy? Maybe I think I'm worthy, but somebody else might look at my life and go, well, I'm more worthy than you. No, you're not worthy, because look at me compared to you. Or I might do that myself, like, oh, they're a whole lot more worthy than I am. And it just, maybe it's part of my personality, but I would feel like, man, I'm not worthy enough. And I've either got to do more, or I've got to be satisfied with just being, okay, well, Paul, I can't do it. I mean, you told me to, but I can't. And how frustrating is that? Go ahead, Lori.
I mean, isn't that the whole purpose of Jesus? Because we can't attain perfection? That's what I try to tell my kids. The goal isn't perfection. Yes, this is all the things, and knowing Ephesians chapter 4 is like my favorite.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of do this, do this, do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
There's a lot of practicality.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's all a great idea on paper, but you know, living it in life. But God knows we couldn't do it. That's why Jesus was sent to begin with.
That's why the cross is there. Yeah.
So, and that's why I always try to tell my kids, yes, this is the guide. This is what you strive for. But God knows it's not perfect, you know, and He knows what's in your heart. If you're trying and you fail, it's a lot different than just being like, I don't care, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. I want to do it.
Yeah.
Which I have teenagers, so that's
Yeah. That's a lot. Yeah.
and even me as a 50-year-old sometimes.
Yeah.
I just want to do what I want to do. But I think we do, but I think you also have to remember that it's not necessarily, I mean, not that it's not the goal, but that you shouldn't have the guilt, because God knows we can't achieve perfection.
So strive for it, but don't feel guilty if we don't get it, because that's what the cross is for.
But yeah, but that's where your communication and asking for, you know,
Forgiveness.
forgiveness
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff in your life, and just, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like, you have to also recognize, and I think that's kind of like piggybacking off of what Stacey had said, is
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, realizing that you're being given this gift even though you're not accomplishing
I'm not worthy.
this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And be humble and be, you know,
Right.
because you know you're not reaching the goal.
Yeah.
To your point, I don't think you can walk around life feeling guilty.
I don't think you should, but I think people do. Jenny, what were you going to say? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That if we are humble, like if we keep reading, if we are humble, if we are gentle, that will help us with our unworthiness. It helps us to not lift ourselves up higher than we should, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so what is he, when it says to live a life worthy of the calling that you received, what's
Mhm.
the calling?
Okay, this is the other part of the question, is what's the calling? And this is where what I wrestle with, and what I want us to. I knew we weren't going to get very far today because but that was intentional, because I think this is an important verse for us to kind of chew on, because I'm agreeing with everything that you just said, that I don't think any of us can ever achieve perfection. Does that mean that we shouldn't strive for it? I guess we can try for it, but then, if you have the recognition, like, well, I'm not going to get it, then it almost becomes, well, then why am I even trying? You could go down that path too. And so even if I agree with you, and even if I think that Paul, like in Romans chapter 5, says, while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Like, you can't be worthy. He just got done 2 chapters ago, in chapter 2, going, it is by grace that you've been saved. It is not anything that you have done. Well, then how can I live a worthy life if I can't? Why are you telling me to if I can't do it, Paul? So, and that's why I want to clarify, hopefully clarify what it is that Paul is really talking about here. Okay, so live a life worthy of the calling. There's maybe another translation, because I'm reading from the NIV. Does anybody have something instead of live that says walk? Okay, what is it? Say it again. Walk in a manner worthy of the calling. Okay, so live. Mm-hmm. So the Greek word there, that literal meaning of that Greek word is to walk. But it's used multiple times in the New Testament in the context of, how you live your life. It literally means to walk in a certain direction, to walk in a certain path. But you can understand the imagery. I'm going to go down this path in my life. I'm going to live my life in this direction. So that's why you see the two different words translated there. If you want to see kind of a similar use of it, hold your finger there in Ephesians 4 and go all the way towards the back of the Bible to 1 John. 1 John chapter 2. I'll start with verse 5. I'm going to read verses 5 and 6. But if anyone obeys his word, God's 1 John chapter 2, beginning in verse 5. If anyone obeys his word, God's love is truly made complete in him. This is how we know we are in him. Verse 6. Whoever claims to live in him must walk as Jesus did. Now, you may have a couple of translations say live as Jesus lived, but it's that same Greek word, walk, that we see here in Ephesians chapter 4. Y'all with me? So, to me, that's I like that imagery. Walk like Jesus did. And if you think about how, especially in the Jewish culture of Jesus' day and Paul's day, the whole rabbi and disciple relationship. We've talked about this before, but a disciple would follow his rabbi and would mimic everything that the rabbi did. So, whatever however fast or slow he walked, his line of disciples would be following right behind him. How he ate his food, how he drank whatever he was drinking, how he sat and got up, his hand motions, they would try to learn to mimic their rabbi. So, for John to use that statement, if you're going to claim to be in Christ, you need to walk like Christ did. You need to walk like Jesus did. That's the imagery again. You need to look like and walk like and talk like and act like and be like Jesus. You wrap that all up in that one word, walk. So, bring that back to Ephesians chapter 4. Paul says, as a prisoner of the Lord, then I urge you to walk. Let's make it that way. Walk in a way that's worthy of your calling. Live your life, walk your walk, worthy of the calling that you received. And again, I think worthy is the word that bothers us. Or that we, not necessarily bothers, but we need to get a clearer picture of. So, when you think of worthy, what comes to mind? Mm-hmm.
Value character or whatever you want to value that.
Yeah.
God wants us to feel worthy.
Yeah.
We may not feel like we are worthy, but as our Father, just like me as my daughter, I want her to feel worthy.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't want to disappoint him. So I'm going to try to achieve what he calls us to do.
Because worthy carries with it the concept of value. Okay? And we have value, right? We do. We're handcrafted creations of the King of the universe. We have some worth. We have some value. For sure. That's right.
Well, if you take that too, and then you've got, okay, so that's us. That's what we're worth. So we're worth the Son of God dying. And so God, in his wisdom, says it's worth it for my son to die so that you can live and be like him and get other people there. That itself sounds daunting, but it's confidence at the same time too. I think that's what we're struggling with, is that like confidence and humility, and the things that those aren't opposites, that they work together. Like I could be confident in the fact that I was worth it. Like
Yes.
God died for me.
Yeah.
I can sit in that and stand in that and be victorious in that while also realizing, but I'm flawed. But I move forward in that.
Yeah.
Understand my flaws.
I have value and I have worth to God. I was worth it for him to send Jesus to die for sure.
I feel like we don't have to live like beating ourselves up, saying I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's like not making it be in vain, not making Jesus' sacrifice be in vain, and just recognizing through our acceptance that we're imperfect and that we needed that sacrifice, and that we, that he reconciles the difference between what we get wrong and what gets us into heaven. Like, he's the bridge of that gap,
Yeah.
Just recognizing that and trying to live in a way that honors that.
Yeah. I want to honor what he did. I don't
I want to
I don't want the sacrifice to have been for nothing. Yeah. So let me do this because I don't want to run out of time before we hopefully get a clearer picture of this. I know I'm Bible geeking on y'all a little bit today, but the Greek word that we translate as worthy, that word means to to assign matching value to something, or worth to worth. So think about like balancing something on the scales, especially in ancient times. They go to the marketplace. You have this particular. You're going to buy some grain. Well, how much is this grain worth? Well, it's worth this many, gold coins. Well, they would throw that on the scale. I've got this many coins, and okay, I've got this much worth of grain. Does that make sense? So it matches. The scales are balanced. It matches in value. So if we can kind of use that concept to think about what Paul is getting at here is my life needs to match something. Okay, so it's not. It's not it's not about my own personal value as much as what my life and my actions, my attitude say about me and say about my faith and say about the one that I claim I believe in. Let me take that a little bit further, because it can be kind of tricky, because we start to think of worthiness as whether or not we measure up. Whether or not I've done enough to measure up to what God expects or what God has done for me, and it's not about making it worth it for God to save me. And I think that's where at least my mind goes. Live a life worthy of the calling. I'm not living my life in a way that makes me worth it for God, because I'm already worth it to God. He already sent Jesus. I was already worth Him sending Jesus to the cross for. Does that make sense? So nothing that I do now makes me any more worth it to God. I'm already worth it. So it's not about measuring up. It's not about proving my worth. It's more about what does my life, what is the way I walk, what does that match up with? And he says, let your life match your calling. Y'all see that? So what's the calling? This is the question you were asking a minute ago. What is Paul talking about when he says our calling? What is that? What is our calling? Yeah, to share the message, share the word, to share who Jesus is and share our story, share what He's done in our lives. So go, hold your finger there in Ephesians 4 again, and go over to 2 Timothy. It's about in the middle of the New Testament. 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 9. 2 Timothy 2 and verse 9. That's not right. Maybe it's 1. Oh, 1. I said 2. I'm sorry. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 9. Okay? I'll back up to verse 8 just so we can get the full sentence. So do not be ashamed to testify about our Lord, or ashamed of me, His prisoner, but join with me in suffering for the gospel by the power of God. Now look at verse 9. Who has saved us and called us to a holy life, not because of anything we have done, but because of His own purpose and grace. What does it say right there in the middle of verse 9 that we have been called to? What's our calling? Okay, so He's called us to live a holy life. When we talk about holy life, are we talking about being perfect? No. Holiness simply means set apart. I don't look like the life I used to have, and I don't look like the rest of the world. There's something different about me, okay? Now, we could get into a whole lot more details about specifically what our calling is, but I think this kind of, what Paul says here in 2 Timothy kind of sums it up. We are called to live a life that doesn't look like the rest of the world. That's our calling, okay? We are saved by Jesus. We are saved by His blood. We are saved by grace. It has nothing to do with our actions except for us being willing to accept the grace that's been offered. Okay? But we are called to live a saved life. We are called to live like we've been rescued, like we've been saved. And that looks different than the rest of the world. And this isn't just about, obeying the Ten Commandments and all those kinds of things. And not cussing and putting something in the offering tray when it comes by and, all of the checklists. This is about how we interact with our families, how we treat our spouses, how we interact with coworkers, how we treat, what kind of compassion, kindness do we show total strangers? How are we living our life? Does it look like everybody else where we're selfish and we're self-consumed and we're hateful and angry? Or do we have a holy life, a set-apart life where we love and we have joy and we have a peace that people who don't have Jesus don't fully understand or comprehend? Are we compassionate? Are we trying to live without judgment? You understand what I'm saying? I'm kind of belaboring the point. We're called to live a different life. Now, let's put all that together. My calling is to live like I've been saved. Right? I'll put that on this side of the scale. My calling is to live like a saved person, live a holy life. So what does Paul say? My walk, the way I live my life, needs to match that. Live a life that looks like you've been saved. This is not about proving my worth to God because I'm extremely valuable to God already. This is about me, I guess for lack of a better way to put it, not being hypocritical. That I am living like I've been saved. I'm living like I believe in what's been done for me. Does that make sense? I think that's what Paul's getting at here. Now, you can go read some other commentaries or listen to some other preachers. They may have a different opinion. I think that's what Paul is getting at here, especially in the context of this divisiveness that this church has been experiencing. You say you're saved. You even say you believe that you've been saved by grace, that you were a sinner and you've been saved. Does your life match that? Are you still being hateful to these people that sit across the room from you that came from a different church background and different cultural background than you did? It's got to match, Maybe even to give, another example that comes to mind for me, and I'll share this when we're done. In Mark chapter 11, you can turn there if you want to. I'm not going to read it verse by verse. In Mark chapter 11, just a few days before Jesus goes to the cross, he's on his way to the temple in Jerusalem, and he sees off in the distance a fig tree. You remember this story? And it's full of leaves, okay? And he walks up to the fig tree and to get some figs, and what does he find? There's no figs, so what does he do? Curses the fig tree, he says, may nobody ever eat fruit from you again, and he goes on from there. Comes back the next day, what's happened to the fig tree? Okay, which, honestly, that's a miracle in and of itself, because even if a tree dies, it doesn't wither the next day, you know what I'm saying? But this thing shriveled up, it's dead. And in the process of that, Jesus, after he left the fig tree the first time, he goes into the temple, and when he goes into the temple, what does he see? You remember? Okay, you got people cheating people out of money, you got animals everywhere, it's chaos, it is not a house of worship. So he goes in, he throws over the tables, he kicks everybody out, he gets a whip, starts whipping people, and doesn't allow anybody to bring animals or money into the temple the whole rest of the day. Why? Why was he that mad about what was happening in the temple? What was this supposed to be? Yeah, you changed the house of prayer into the den of thieves, right? The temple, from a distance, is this massive building where, at least the Jewish people knew, that's where you go to connect with God. And what was happening when they got there? No connection with God. The fig tree had a whole bunch of leaves, looking like it would have fruit. When he got there, what did he find out? There's no fruit. Jesus, I think, is trying to teach his disciples a valuable lesson. What's on the inside needs to match what's on the outside. Okay? And I think that is what Paul is getting at here in Ephesians chapter 4. You claim to be saved. You claim to be a follower of Jesus. Your life needs to match that. Does that mean perfection? No. Does that mean measuring up? No, because you can't. But does that mean that everything that I'm doing is trying to live like I recognize that I've been saved? Yeah. It needs to match. Does that make sense? It takes away the pressure for me and takes away the feeling of guilt. I'm going to try. I am so moved by what God has done for me and all this love that Paul just got done talking about in chapter 3 that I want to try to live a life in response to that. I want to try to live like I am loved and like I have been forgiven. That should change my attitude. And it should change how I talk to people and the way I treat people and all those kinds of things. Does that make sense? So I know we spent pretty much all class on verse 1. We won't just go one verse a day or one verse a week. But I wanted to spend some time on it today because maybe it's a personal thing. Maybe y'all just had to suffer through my own personal struggle. But I feel like there's so many Christians, myself included, who have burned a lot of energy and a lot of tears trying to measure up and thinking that's what's required. And it's not about measuring up. It's about matching my life to what I say I believe to be true. That's it. Okay, so real quick, any other comments, questions from anybody?